Marian was fastening the silver earrings her late husband, Daniel, had given her when her phone vibrated on the dresser. She smiled at her reflection, thinking of the Sunday dinner her son, Elias, had invited her to. It had been weeks since he'd spent time with her. Every call ended with, "I'll call you back, Mom. I'm busy." But yesterday he had insisted, "Mom, come over. Liora made your favorite lasagna." That hopeful warmth vanished when she saw the text from her lawyer, Mr. Grayson. 2 urgent words glared at her. "Call me now." Marian's heart tightened. Mr. Grayson was always calm, deliberate, never dramatic. This message felt wrong. She dialed him with trembling fingers. "Marian, thank God," he said, voice strained. "Where are you?" "At home. I'm getting ready to go to Elias's." "Don't go. Listen carefully." "It's just dinner," she whispered, confused. "No," he said firmly. "I found something extremely serious. I need you to come to my office immediately. Or I'll come to you." Cold fear trickled through her veins. "Grayson, you're scaring me. What's going on?" A heavy silence followed. "Marian, your house isn't yours anymore." Her knees buckled, forcing her onto the edge of the bed. "What do you mean it's not mine?" "Bought it. I worked 30 years. You signed a total property transfer 6 months ago. Elias is the legal owner now." Her breath hitched. "That's impossible. I would never." "You signed it, Marian. And there's more. I can't tell you over the phone." She stared at the blue dress on the floor. Then realization hit her like ice water. That dinner wasn't reconciliation. It was a trap. "I'm coming," she whispered. "Give me 20 minutes." She hung up, heart-shattering. Driving toward Mr. Grayson's office, Marian wiped tears that kept spilling. At a red light, she inhaled shakily as couples passed by, laughing, unaware her world was collapsing. Her mind drifted back 12 years, to losing her husband, Daniel, to a sudden heart attack. She'd been left with $3,800 and rent due in 2 months. Her son Elias had been 20, full of dreams. She was 56, terrified but determined. She refused to crumble. She pulled out the heavy Singer sewing machine her mother left her and stitched her first quilt. She sold it for $30 and began rebuilding her life. That $30 became $60, then $200, then $500 weekly. She made napkins, table runners, embroidered blouses, each stitch fueled by grief and grit. She worked from dawn until late night, fingers bleeding, eyes burning. Sometimes Elias would say, "Mom, rest. It's late." She would smile through exhaustion. "I want you to finish college, son. That's why I'm working." 5 years later, she opened a small studio with 3 employees. Her work appeared in boutique shops, tourists paying hundreds for her wall hangings. Her wrinkled, calloused hands stitched a future she could finally breathe in. At 63, she bought her dream home, a modest 2-story place with a tiny garden. She paid $550,000 in cash. The closing attorney handed her the keys, and she cried like a child. That night she had called Elias. "Son, we finally have our own house. We'll never depend on anyone again." He came with sparkling cider, sat on the floor beside her, and toasted. "Mom, you're the strongest woman I know." She carried those words in her heart for years. Her savings grew too. $82,000 stored safely as her retirement cushion. Life finally felt secure. When Marian parked outside Grayson's office, she saw her reflection in the mirror. Smeared mascara, swollen eyes, messy hair. But beneath that was something deeper. Fear. Fear that everything she'd built with bleeding fingers had been stolen by the very people she trusted. She stepped inside. Mr. Grayson greeted her with a tense expression. "Marian, sit. Please." He handed her a glass of water. Before opening the folder, he said quietly, "Before I explain anything, I need you to know where all of this started." Marian exhaled shakily. "It began 3 years ago, when Liora entered your lives. 3 years earlier, Elias had walked into Marian's house with a woman holding his hand. Liora was slim, polished, confident, dressed in a pearl-white pantsuit, perfume filling the air like a declaration. "Mom, this is Liora," Elias announced proudly. Liora extended a cold, polite hand. "Mrs. Archer, a pleasure." Marian liked her. Maybe because Elias finally looked happy again. Liora was successful, articulate, seemingly grounded. But Marian didn't know that Liora's interest was not in her son's heart, but in Marian's lifetime of sacrifice. The first cracks appeared subtly, wrapped in smiles and faux kindness. Liora would bring expensive French pastries every Sunday, barely tasting them. "I'm watching my figure," she'd say with a tight smile. Then came the first remark. "Mrs. Archer, your house has potential. With a remodel, it could double in value. Maybe replace this vintage furniture with something more modern." Marian forced a smile. "I like them. They have stories." "Of course," Liora replied, brushing her sleek hair. "But sometimes the past keeps us from growing, don't you think?" Elias said nothing. Marian felt a seed of discomfort, but she shoved it aside. For Elias's sake. Another Sunday, while Marian stirred beef stew, Liora leaned against the counter. "Mrs. Archer, do you have a structured retirement plan?" "I have savings. And my business does well." Liora nodded slowly. "But what about when your hands fail you? When you can't work anymore?" Marian swallowed hard. It was a fear she carried privately, whispered in sleepless nights. Hearing it from Liora felt like a wound. "That's why I save," she said quietly. "Of course," Liora said sweetly. "But you know what's smarter? Putting this house in Elias's name now. For tax benefits." A chill crawled over Marian's skin. A month later, Elias and Liora announced their engagement. Marian arranged a small celebration at her home. Liora arrived late, barely touching the food. "I'm not used to meals this rich," she murmured. Marian smiled through the sting. At the wedding, Marian wasn't consulted on anything. Not the guest list, not the music. "It's their day," she told herself. But she felt like a stranger at her own child's celebration. After their honeymoon, visits dwindled. Phone calls shortened. When they did come, Liora dominated conversations, critiquing Marian's home with her eyes. Something dark was growing beneath the smiles. One night, Marian lay awake questioning herself. "Maybe I'm imagining it," she whispered. But her instincts screamed otherwise. She just didn't know how right they were. Mr. Grayson placed a document on the desk, a public deed. Marian recognized her signature. "Before I explain," he said, "tell me how this signature happened." Marian closed her eyes. 6 months earlier, Elias had called unexpectedly. "Mom, come for lunch. We need to talk about something important." Her heart raced with worry. She arrived at their apartment, unaware that she was walking into the beginning of her own downfall. Liora greeted her with a wide, rehearsed smile. The table was set elegantly. Salmon, salad, white wine. Nothing Marian actually enjoyed. She ate quietly, waiting. After dessert, Elias cleared his throat. "Mom, we've been thinking about your future." "My future," she repeated. Liora leaned forward, her fake concern almost convincing. "Marian, do you know how high inheritance taxes are? Up to 35% of property value." Marian froze. 35. Liora nodded sympathetically. "Your house is worth over $800,000. Elias would owe hundreds of thousands." Elias squeezed her hand. "We don't want you to lose your home, Mom. What options do I have?" Marian whispered. Liora slid papers across the table, filled with legal terms Marian didn't understand. "The solution is simple," Liora said gently. "Transfer the house to Elias now. While alive, you keep living there. Nothing changes. It just protects your assets." "But I wouldn't be the owner anymore," Marian said. "Only on paper," Elias insisted. "Mom, trust me," Liora added. "Wills don't avoid taxes. This is safer." They showed her alarming online articles, red warnings, horror stories. Fear twisted inside Marian. "Please, Mom," Elias said softly. Against every instinct, Marian agreed. 2 days later, she signed at an attorney's office. The man rushed through the explanation, pointing where she should sign. Liora and Elias smiled calmly behind her. The attorney congratulated her. "You've done something wise." Marian walked out with a hollow feeling in her chest. But she forced herself to believe she had protected her son from future burdens. She placed the documents in a drawer and prayed she hadn't made a mistake. She had no idea she had just signed away the very foundation of her life. Back in the present, Marian stared at Mr. Grayson, her hands trembling. "What you signed," he said slowly, "was not protection. It was a total, irreversible transfer. Elias is the sole owner. If he wants to sell the house, evict you, mortgage it. He doesn't need your consent." Marian shook her head violently. "He promised, he told me." "They lied, Marian," Grayson said bluntly. He pulled out another document. 3 months ago, Elias applied for a home equity loan, using your house as collateral." "How much?" she whispered. $190,000. Her breath vanished. "They put my house in debt." "Yes. And if they don't pay, the bank takes it." Marian clutched her chest. "That's not all," Grayson said. He showed her his phone, screenshots of text messages. "These were forwarded to me anonymously. Read them." Marian read the exchange between Liora and a friend. "We're almost rid of the burden. The old woman signed everything. We just need to get her out so we can remodel. My son says we'll move her to a care facility. Asterisk. She's served her purpose." Marian dropped the phone, sobbing. Her world crumbled. Her son, the child she raised alone, the boy she fed when she barely had enough, the young man she worked until her fingers bled to support, had betrayed her for money. Mr. Grayson quietly placed tea before her, but her hands shook too much to hold it. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely recognizable. How did you find all this?" He sighed heavily. "A colleague at the public registry noticed suspicious movements. A transfer followed immediately by a mortgage. That's unusual." "Why?" "Because it contradicts the idea of protecting an asset." Grayson opened another folder. "I investigated. The loan wasn't for home improvements or emergencies. It was a cash-out loan." Marian felt sick. Meaning they can use the money for anything. Cars, vacations, investments. Anything. Her stomach twisted. "They took my home for spending money?" Grayson nodded gravely. "And Marian, I'm afraid there's more. A lot more." She pressed her shaking hands together. "What else could there possibly be?" Grayson hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Their plan for you didn't end with the house transfer." Marian's voice cracked. "What do you mean?" Grayson held her gaze. "Their next step was to remove you from the house permanently. They were preparing legal documents to declare you unfit to live alone." Marian recoiled. "Unfit? I run a business. Drive. They don't care," he said softly. "Their goal is full control of the property. With you out, they can sell or remodel it freely." Marian covered her mouth, trembling. Her son. Her only child. He hadn't just taken her house. He had planned to erase her from her own life. Marian's breathing turned shallow as she tried to process Grayson's words. "But why? Why would Elias do this to me?" Grayson sighed. "I can only guess. Financial pressure. Influence from Liora. Greed." Marian felt her heart tearing. "I raised him better than this." "I know," Grayson replied softly. "But people change. Especially when someone else whispers in their ear." Marian wiped her face with trembling fingers. "What do I do now?" Grayson leaned forward. "First, you don't go to their house. That dinner invitation was planned. They needed you out so the transfer couldn't be contested." Marian shivered. Grayson opened another folder. They even scheduled a meeting with a contractor for next week. They planned to begin renovations right after they moved you out. Marian pressed a hand to her forehead. I can't believe this. They were waiting for me to walk into their trap. He nodded. If you had gone today, you might have signed other documents without realizing. They're desperate to finalize everything, Marian whispered. My own son, setting me up like a stranger. Grayson's voice softened. Marian, you are not powerless. You still have legal options. But you need to stay calm and act wisely. He slid a paper toward her. This is the timeline of everything they've done. Transfers, bank transactions, loan approvals. Marian stared at the dates. Each one felt like a knife. 6 months ago. I trusted him, she murmured. I trusted them both. Grayson nodded. I know. And they used that trust. Marian looked up sharply. Can the transfer be reversed? Grayson hesitated. It will be difficult. They created a trail that makes it look like you willingly gifted the property. But deception changes things. Fraud changes things. Marian's grip tightened. I'll fight. I'm not giving up. Grayson gave her a long, steady look. Then we begin today. But you must be prepared. This won't be easy. Elias and Liora won't step aside quietly. Marian's voice grew stronger. Let them fight. I'm fighting too. He nodded approvingly. Good. Your first step is documenting everything you remember. Every conversation, every detail. Marian exhaled shakily. I can do that. And Marian, he added gently, you cannot contact Elias or Liora. Not yet. She swallowed hard. I won't. Driving home later, her hands gripped the wheel tightly as she whispered to herself. They won't destroy me. Not this time. When she reached home, Marian paused outside the front door. The house looked different now, like a wounded friend. She touched the doorframe softly. They won't take you from me inside. The familiar smell of lavender polish and old oak steadied her. She made tea she couldn't drink. Pacing the living room, a memory surfaced. Elias as a boy, running through the hallway with paint on his hands, laughing freely. She had washed those tiny hands, kissed his scraped knees. How did we end up here? She whispered. The house answered her with silence. Marian sat down and began writing. She wrote for hours. Every small detail, every conversation, every warning she ignored. Her handwriting wobbled as she wrote Liora's words. Putting the house in Elias's name is smarter. She wrote Elias's words too. Mom, trust me. She had trusted. Her phone buzzed suddenly. Elias was calling. Marian stared at the screen but didn't answer. A moment later a message came. Mom, are you still coming? Dinner's getting cold. A second message followed from Liora. Marian, please hurry. We need to discuss something important. Marian deleted both messages. The trap was already exposed the next morning. Grayson called. Marian, I need you to come to the office again. Something new came up. Her stomach tightened. Is it bad? It's significant. Just come. When she arrived, he handed her a printed email. It's from the bank, he explained. They froze part of the loan because Elias and Liora failed an income verification step. Marian frowned. Meaning they're in financial trouble. Deep trouble. That loan was their only way out. Marian felt a cold wave wash over her. So they took my house, because they were drowning. Grayson nodded slowly. Grayson continued. If we act fast, we can request an emergency injunction. It won't give the house back immediately, but it will prevent them from selling or refinancing it. Marian clasped her hands together. Do it. Please. I already started the paperwork, he replied. She blinked. You did. You deserved someone fighting for you, he said simply. For the first time in days, Marian felt a spark of hope. What happens next? We prepare for court. And Marian, you must prepare emotionally. Elias may turn against you once he realizes what we're doing. Marian inhaled deeply. Let him. 3 days later, Marian received an unexpected knock. She opened the door cautiously. Elias stood there, face tense. "Mom, why haven't you answered my calls?" he demanded. Marian kept her voice steady. "I've been busy." "Busy?" he scoffed. "We made dinner for you." Liora was upset. Marian stepped back slightly. "Elias, we need to talk." He frowned. "About what?" "About my house." His expression flickered. Guilt, anger, then indifference. "Mom, please don't start this. You signed it willingly. We were helping you." Marian felt her pulse hammer, but she lifted her chin. "No, Elias. You lied." Elias's jaw clenched. Liora explained everything. "You were worried about taxes." "I wasn't worried," she snapped softly. "You made me worried." He rolled his eyes. "Mom, don't be dramatic." Those words sliced into her. "Why did you take a loan against my house?" Elias froze. Then he answered too quickly. "It was temporary. We had plans." "Yes," Marian whispered. "Plans to send me away." His face went pale. "What?" "I know everything, Elias." He swallowed hard. "Who told you?" "Does it matter?" He looked away, jaw trembling. Then he murmured, "You weren't supposed to find out yet." Marian steadied herself. "Why, Elias? Why would you do this to me?" He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "You don't understand. We're struggling. Liora's job cut her hours. My company changed my position. We have debts, Mom. Serious ones. So you stole my home." "I didn't steal it," he snapped. "You gave it to me." "I trusted you," Marian whispered. Elias's eyes filled with frustration. "We just needed the loan to get back on our feet. Once things got better, we'd help you, Mom." Marian felt her heart breaking anew. "You planned to institutionalize me, Elias." He stopped cold. "What? That's not, Mom, listen. I read the messages." His shoulders slumped as the truth shattered whatever excuses he had left. "That wasn't my idea," he muttered weakly. "Liora said it was the only way. She said you'd be safer." "Safer?" Marian's voice cracked. "In a facility. Away from my own home." Elias avoided her eyes. Marian's tears flowed freely now. "I sacrificed everything for you. I worked until my hands bled so you could have a future. And you sold mine." He whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom." But the words sounded empty. Marian stepped back from the door. "You need to leave." Elias frowned. "Mom." "Leave," she repeated, voice trembling but firm. He hesitated, hurt flickering in his eyes, but then anger twisted his expression. "You're letting Grayson manipulate you," he said sharply. "He wants your money." Marian stared at him. "I have no money left. You took it." Elias opened his mouth, then closed it again. "Mom, if you fight this, things will get ugly." Marian straightened her spine. "They're already ugly." He exhaled harshly and left without another word. The door clicked shut like a final betrayal. The silence afterward felt heavy, suffocating. Marian sat down slowly, her hands trembling. She whispered to herself. "He didn't even deny it." A soft knock startled her. She opened the door cautiously. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Patel. "Marian, dear, are you all right?" I heard raised voices. Marian forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just a family matter." Mrs. Patel placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Family can hurt us deepest. But you're strong. I've seen you survive worse." Marian's eyes filled. "Thank you," she whispered. Sometimes kindness from a stranger felt more healing than blood ties. That evening Marian called Grayson. He came to the house. What did he say? Excuses. Threats. Grayson sighed. "It means he knows. They must have received the court notice." Marian swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" "Now," he said, "we fight openly. The injunction will delay their plans. Next comes the evidence presentation. Marian sat on her couch, the house quiet around her. Do I have a chance? A strong one, Grayson replied. Liora manipulated you. Elias misled you. It's fraud. But you must stay steady. She nodded. I will. 2 weeks later, the court hearing began. Marian stood before the judge, heart pounding as Grayson argued her case clearly. Manipulation, withheld information, exploitation of an elderly parent. Liora glared from across the room, her polished composure cracking. Elias sat beside her, avoiding Marian's gaze. When the judge asked Marian to speak, her voice trembled at first, then strengthened. I gave everything I had to my son. I never imagined he would take the only thing I had left, my home, by lying to me. Her eyes filled. I trusted him. And he betrayed that trust. The courtroom fell silent. After hours of discussion, the judge granted an extended injunction. Liora cursed under her breath. Elias deflated like a punctured balloon. Marian exhaled shakily. Outside the courtroom, Elias approached her. Mom, can we talk? She shook her head gently. Not now. Please, he whispered, eyes glossy. I didn't want it to go this far. Marian looked at him painfully. It went this far the moment you chose money over your mother. Elias wiped his face. I'm sorry. But Marian had learned something vital. Sorry didn't fix shattered trust. Weeks passed as the legal battle continued. Marian returned to her studio, reclaiming pieces of the life she nearly lost. Her employees welcomed her warmly. We were worried, said Anna, her lead seamstress. Marian smiled softly. I'm okay. Just fighting for what's mine. She immersed herself in embroidery again, letting each stitch calm her. Customers noticed the new fire in her work. You've changed, one said. Marian simply answered, I had to. The house became her sanctuary again, not a symbol of fear but of survival. Every evening she whispered, they won't take you from me. Finally, after months of filings, testimony, and evidence, Grayson arrived with news. Marian, he said, smiling for the first time. The judge issued a ruling. Her breath caught. And the transfer is voided. The loan is frozen. The house is legally yours again. Marian covered her mouth, tears spilling instantly. Are you serious? Absolutely. The court recognized the deception. Elias and Liora have no claim to the property. Marian broke down sobbing, relief, grief, and triumph mixing together. She whispered, Thank you, thank you. Grayson placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You earned this victory. The next morning, Marian stood on her porch watching the sunrise warm the brick walls of her home. She breathed deeply, letting the fresh air cleanse months of pain. Elias had sent a final message the night before. Mom, I'm so sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. Marian read it once, then set her phone down. Forgiveness would come in its own time. Maybe months, maybe years. But she knew one thing for certain. She had survived betrayal that could have destroyed her. And now, with steady hands and a stronger heart, she was rebuilding her life on her own terms.